Emotional reset for people who don't want to talk about it. This program was adapted for people who do not want to do therapy or talk about their problems in great detail, but who do know that they could do better with an emotional and mental reset. Unconscious, internalized beliefs cause emotions and behaviors which are problematic in our day-to-day life. You have tremendous resources, learnings, and benefits from everything you have ever experienced, good and bad. By avoiding and denying uncomfortable memories and feelings, you also avoid making the most of these resources. Trauma is the lasting emotional response that often results from living through a distressing event. Experiencing a traumatic event can harm a person's sense of safety, sense of self, self-esteem, and ability to regulate emotions and navigate relationships. Long after the traumatic event occurs, people with trauma can potentially feel anger, shame, helplessness, powerlessness, and intense fear. A tremendous amount of energy is expended in everyday life to avoid feeling those uncomfortable emotions. This is a problem because when someone avoids taking responsibility for how their trauma has affected them, blame for negative feelings tends to be shifted externally and projected onto those around them, sabotaging relationships, success, leading to more feelings of anger, powerlessness, overwhelm, resentment, bitterness, blame, and a whole lot of self-delusion. It's natural to want to avoid uncomfortable feelings. Humans innately move away from pain and towards pleasure. What complicates it, though, can be shame over events that occurred, or shame over how you feel about events that occurred, and perhaps not wanting to see loved ones in a negative light. It's important to know that healing does not require finger-pointing, blaming, or accusing others of being bad people. Trauma can occur accidentally and without any negative intent. We all know people who are enthusiastic about their therapy. They can't wait to talk about their problems. But many do not and will avoid therapy at all costs, preferring to sabotage primary relationships with loved ones, marriages, health, relationships with children, and success at work over the pain of facing their emotional problems. They don't want to think about or go over something that happened to them. They don't want to think about the parent that loved them so much causing damage or being accidentally or intentionally abusive. They don't want to live or relive any abuse they experienced and the resulting confusing emotions. Every person experiences things which were never intended to harm them, but were registered as trauma in a child's mind. This is not a blame game. The problem is, memories buried alive never die. There's no standardized rule for what will register as trauma, including innocent events. It doesn't have to be big, bad, and scary. It just has to have challenging emotional consequences. This protocol is a gentle and comfortable way to address some of these emotional consequences without the discomfort of having to hash out every detail. It's called content-free, which means the specific content or the details of the initial events are not important or necessary to discuss, and change can happen anyway. The techniques in this protocol were adapted from processes that I learned from David Snyder, Sylvia Hartman, and Mike Mandel for my own clients, many of whom are uncomfortable with the idea of therapy or talking about their problems.